Thank you for meeting with me. Talk
No,
a bit.
thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, of course. Well, I really wanted to talk to you a little bit more, as you know, about frozen shoulders. I just think it's a really interesting topic, and there's not a huge amount of information about it available. There's a lot of confusion still behind it. And as somebody that has had not one but two at the same time, oh my gosh, Jessica, I can't believe that. I wanted to talk to you about that. Can you just do a little introduction just for people who
Yeah,
don't know who you are, what it is that you do exactly?
yeah. Well, my name's Jessica. I'm originally from New Zealand, but I spent 10 years working as a child psychologist in Australia. And for the last 20 years, I've been living in Argentina. I actually, 10 years ago, moved to the countryside. So I literally have cows in the front paddock,
Oh, wow,
which is very
lovely.
nice and peaceful. Reminds me a bit of, my homeland as
Yeah.
well. And last about 4 years ago, I started retraining in health coaching. I think because of going through perimenopause and
Yeah.
all of these strange symptoms and things that were happening to me, I got really interested in sort of a holistic approach that
Yeah.
includes psychology, but also includes, nutrition and sleep and all of the
Mm.
foundational things. And I became really fascinated in that and thought, oh, this could be like a really nice sort of turn in my career, something that working with women also going through perimenopause and postmenopause, it became like a goal of mine to really dig deep into the research and find
Yeah.
out all I could. And then I got sort of stopped by two frozen shoulders that stopped me in my tracks, literally. The crossover was about 5 months, I think, when I had two at once. Um,
My gosh.
the first one, because there's three stages. There's like a freezing stage where
Yeah.
it's extremely painful, sleep's interrupted, and you're slowly losing your range of motion. So it can be quite scary because you're like, okay, I couldn't do that yesterday, now I can't do this. And eventually you end up with sometimes a shoulder that's completely stuck. I got to the point where I couldn't wash my armpit, for example.
Yeah, because you can't
Your
lift. Yeah.
arm gets really strapped to your side. And then the second one started, I think because I was overusing it,
Yeah.
compensating for the other one. And so I had a period of about 5 months where I had one that was frozen and one that was freezing.
Oh my
So
gosh,
it was a
Jessica.
pretty difficult time. But it also, for me, it was like my body telling me to sort of stop, literally like
Yeah.
stops you in your tracks. And so, it was now looking back, even though it was extremely painful, I'm kind of thankful I went through that because it really made me think about my life, emotional things that were happening in my life, the direction of the life I wanted to go in, what are perhaps some underlying things that were happening under the surface. I mean, obviously, the dropping of hormones like
Mm.
estrogen is very protective of your joints. So it was like a time to sort of really learn and look inside. And it kind of also gave me this new perspective of what I wanted to do was to focus on women with frozen shoulder.
Yeah.
So in a way, it kind of the whole process. Was extremely painful, but it gave me sort of a whole new perspective on things and perhaps, even a new career direction. So, yeah,
Oh,
I
well,
don't know.
that's a really positive thing to come out of something so excruciatingly
Yes,
painful and so
it is
debilitating.
very, very painful. I will
It
say that. It is
yeah,
very painful, but it does get better. And I
okay.
think, like you were saying, if, for example, with the first one, it took 5 or so months to get properly diagnosed. So in the meantime, I'd been sent to physio to recuperate the shoulder, which is the worst thing you can do when it's freezing. because it's completely inflamed. So physio was like almost a traumatic experience for me. I feel
Oh,
sorry for the young physio because he didn't know, because I don't think he'd come across them before. He was just like perplexed about why are you getting worse, not better. And
gosh.
I remember one day I came in and he was trying to sort of manipulate the shoulder and the
Yeah.
shoulder blade, and I cried out in pain. I was in
God.
tears. And this was a gym that were a lot of elderly women that went for recuperation and exercise. And they literally yelled at him like, leave her alone, the poor thing.
Oh my
And
God.
I think that from that point on, I think he must have talked to his supervisor, and his supervisor said, oh, this might be frozen shoulder. And you shouldn't be doing what you're doing because you're just making it worse. So I think a lot of people get the diagnosis late and maybe get sent to things like physio, which is not what you should be doing in that first phase. You should be really being very calm and very careful with the shoulder and very gentle with it, because you literally don't want to poke it when it's inflamed. It,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think a lot
that's
of
really
people have that
interesting.
experience of what is this? And also the length of time it takes to recover is a long time. So people, even people in your family, like, why aren't you recovering? What's wrong? You know, this has been months now. So it's something that I really feel for people going through
Yeah.
it, having been through it, but also it can be a bit of a lonely experience after a time when you're trying to recover and it's taking months to years. People really need support through that period of time.
Yeah. Gosh, that there is so much to unpack there. So starting from the beginning, so how would you describe a frozen shoulder? What actually is it? What causes it?
Well, cause that's, I mean, it always was called sort of idiopathic. There's like, we don't really know.
Okay,
But
yeah.
now, like a latest review, they're sort of saying it's a mix of things, which makes
Okay.
sense to me. Metabolic, inflammatory, autoimmune sometimes, and of course, it is much more common in the menopause transition.
Yes.
Women between 40 and 50, it's
Yeah.
quite common.
Why is
So
that?
there is something about the loss of estrogen too, that
Yeah.
estrogen is very protective of your joints
Mm.
and anti-inflammatory. And also I think too what happened is I came into it from a few years of perimenopause, not sleeping very well,
Mm.
dealing with other sort of strange health things that came up. So you come into it sometimes when you're already, your system is really pushed to its edge.
Run down. Yes.
So for me, I kind of see it as like a perfect storm, and
Yeah.
everyone's storm is a little different.
Yeah.
You know, the drop in estrogen can be one layer, metabolic issues like insulin resistance can be another layer, thyroid issues are often in there too, and stress, chronic stress,
Mm.
life stage stress, maybe still kids at home, and then parents that are maybe having difficulties, changing career. All of these things happen all at the same time, often for women.
Yeah.
So it's like this ball of um, things that work together, and
Mm.
perhaps a tiny injury. Like I think for my first one, I was doing HIIT classes, so lifting weights, doing
Mm.
things, and one day I just felt kind of a tiny twinge. I thought nothing of it, and then the arm slowly kind of lost range of motion. That was not that twinge was I think a labrum tear, but a very tiny one that they later found saw on the MRI. But on its own, it wouldn't be enough to cause that much disability.
Okay.
So I think the body like goes into this overprotective mode and like,
Mm.
okay, let's like throw down collagen, let's protect the shoulder at all costs. And so it's really your body trying to help you, but it kind of goes overboard. It's like the signal to stop isn't there, and it
Yeah.
just keeps kind of trying to help you, and it ends up literally strapping your shoulder down that you can't move it. And then of course you've got the long recovery to sort of undo that process.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and like
yeah,
you said, it's quite
discovering the
diff
perfect storm
yeah.
is important.
Which would make sense as to why we are more prone to it during the perimenopause phase because there's so
Yeah,
much going on, there's so much
so
change and a lot
much.
of stress. And it sounds like it's quite difficult to diagnose as well.
Yeah, I think people go from one place to another, or maybe it's not as known. Some you
Yeah,
might go to your local doctor and
yeah,
they just think you've strained your shoulder or it's a bit stiff and it'll get better soon. Go to physio,
yeah,
go and see a physio. So I think, yeah, I think it's becoming more known now. I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of menopause doctors out there really talking about the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause is
mm,
becoming sort of more known. So I think things are going to change. I think
yeah,
it will get better, but
yeah,
being diagnosed early makes a big difference for the whole course of it, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. I can imagine. I tore my rotator cuff early last year, and that was really painful. And initially, the doctor did think that it was a frozen shoulder, and
Oh, okay.
I was actually sent to a physiotherapist, but I opted for an osteopath instead. It's just my preference, and he straight
Yeah.
away said it's not a frozen shoulder, which I was
Mhm.
very grateful for. Although that still took several months before that stopped hurting. But my mum has a frozen shoulder as we speak. She's been suffering with it for a few weeks, no, sorry, a few months, and she was sent to a physio. But he didn't manipulate her. He gave her some exercises to do, which I believe she's been doing. She had a lot of them she couldn't do, especially in the first phase, which I want to talk to you about the different
Yeah.
phases because that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Um, so we've got freezing, frozen, and thawing.
And and thawing.
Is that right? Gosh, that's a word, isn't it? So
Yeah.
can you describe each one of those
Yeah. The stages.
phases?
When the freezing
Mm,
stage, it's highly inflamed. So
yeah.
when you see photos of the joint, it's very inflamed, red. It's extremely painful,
Mm,
often more painful at night. So sleep is
yeah.
often one of the biggest disruptions. That stage can go for a few months, from a couple of months to 5 or 6 months. And then
Gosh.
the second phase is the sort of stiff phase where the joint is sort of frozen. The capsule is tightened. There's collagen build up there, so the shoulder you lose your range of movement.
Mm.
And depending on the person, that could be a little bit or a lot. Like I literally could not move my arm from my side. So it has, and then that phase can take months to a year, and then you slowly sort of thaw over another period of a year. It depends on the person.
Yeah,
The general course can be months to a couple of years. So
that's a long
it is
time.
something that takes time for the body to recover from.
Yeah. And does the pain lessen in the other two phases once you've got past the frozen stage?
Yeah,
So
in the freezing
the freeze.
stage is the most painful, and then the
Yeah.
frozen stage, the pain is decreased a lot. You can
Okay.
sleep, even I could sleep on that side,
Oh, it's just you can't
but
move it.
you just can't move
Mm.
it. And if you do suddenly move it outside its range of motion, it
You know
really
about it.
hurts.
Yeah.
If you're ever in a group, like I was part of a Facebook group about frozen shoulder sufferers, and they called them zingers.
Zingers, why?
Zingers, yeah, yeah. It actually is a pretty good name because if you move it suddenly outside its range of motion, it's literally like you're being electrocuted. The pain is
God,
intense. People were talking about dropping to their knees in pain. Like it is
like a
extremely
shot.
painful.
Yeah. Like,
Um, I think I had it happen a couple of times. Once I was walking and it was a windy day and my hat sort of blew off, and your
oh, you
instinct
just
is
went to
to like,
grab it. Yes. Oh,
yes, that was not a good idea. That was a very painful incident. But it's the body being protective, but
yeah.
it is that's in the can happen in the stage where it is frozen when you go outside of what the body can handle. But otherwise, it's much less painful, that phase. And that's
Yeah.
maybe when you start more physio sort of working on the getting the range of motion back very slowly and carefully. I guess the key is doing it carefully, slowly, carefully, honoring your body's pain,
Mm,
honoring yourself. I think for me, that very first phase of trying to do physio when it was freezing was quite traumatizing.
mm,
And then you get into this loop where your body tries to protect itself, and you probably overguard the shoulder out of sort of fear and
yeah.
trauma.
Yeah, of course.
So it's very important for people to be very kind to the shoulder and not do things that really push it past its limit, because it does get better. It does get better. It just
Yeah.
takes time.
Yeah. So during the freezing stage, then you would say just don't do anything with it. Just let it be. Keep it nice and still. And do you ice it or do anything like that? Is there any?
Um, People should really talk to their doctors
Okay.
about like pain management,
Yeah,
what suits them and within their, medical philosophy of
sure.
holistically, or whether they want a steroid injection, or there's other pain management that people can use depending on what your philosophy is and how you want to
Yeah.
manage things. In that first stage, sleep is really important,
Okay.
trying to get as much sleep as possible, because then you're in another loop. If you're not sleeping, that increases inflammation, increases pain, and you get into another loop. So protecting your sleep is really important in that first stage.
Yeah.
I remember I had I called it my pillow fort. It's like sort of this intricate six pillow thing where you've got a pillow under here and
So
between your
you can get
legs, and
comfortable. Yeah.
yeah, I had this sort of I bought a breastfeeding cushion,
Yes.
the big curved one, and sort of, so you actually feel like you're kind of cocooned, and
Yeah.
it actually really did help a lot. And to feel safe, I think the body needs to kind of feel safe and protected, and that you're caring for it. You can do some very careful movements, like there's something called a sort of a pendulum, where you're
Yes.
not actually sort of moving the body, but you're moving your body and it swings the shoulder. So very, very careful, very light things, but it's not the time to really push it.
Yeah. So
Don't
it's all
poke
about
the
really.
bear, they say.
Don't poke the bear. Yes, I
Don't
um
poke
I,
the
I read
bear.
your article and I was going to ask you about that. So that's what you mean by that. Just let it be. It's a period of rest.
It's highly inflamed. The
Yeah.
more you push it, the more inflamed it will get, and the more it will try and protect itself.
Yes, of
So,
course. Yeah.
so then you've got to unwind more stuff later.
Yes. Yeah. I really liked your idea about the pillow. I think that's a really good idea. I know that to Mum's described it as she can't lay on it, but she also can't lay on the other side because the weight of
Yeah,
the
it
pain.
hurts. Yeah,
Even though she's lying on the side that's not injured. And then
yeah,
during the so what and then once it's frozen, you said that the pain lessens at that point.
yes,
And is that the time when you can start doing gradual exercises and maybe look
yeah,
into getting some physio?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the time to. But also, again, doing it very carefully.
Mm,
Not working with someone who's experienced in frozen
yes.
shoulder, I think is really important. I mean, my physio was a young guy in his 30s. I just don't think he'd come across it before. So choosing someone who has a lot of experience, maybe with women with
Yeah.
skeletal difficulties, menopause, someone who's knowledgeable in that will know, where the limits are. So it's important to start moving it, because if you just leave it
Yeah.
completely, then it takes a lot more to try and get the movement back.
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's
Yeah.
like a balancing act of
Yes.
finding your own level of tolerance and working with someone who's experienced with frozen shoulder.
Yeah. And does it actually need manipulating or can you work with somebody online who can just describe to you what you need to be doing?
I think some people do it on their own, just with
Mm,
exercises at home. But I think often a little bit more is needed, maybe especially in the later phases, with
mm.
someone who can actually. I know that the scapulant often needs a lot of help to sort of get back
Yes.
moving again, and that might involve right hands-on
Yeah, yeah,
manipulations. So, people do what they can as well,
yeah,
what they can afford, what they have access
yeah,
to. So everyone's journey is a little bit different, I think, in respect to that. But finding people who know what they're doing is really important.
yeah,
That you're
yeah. And
not
I,
you and your shoulder is not pushed through something it can't tolerate.
yes, take it at your own pace.
Yeah, take it
And
at your own pace. Be kind.
yeah, be kind to yourself, rest, don't be in a rush. And I loved your idea about joining a Facebook group so you can talk to women who are actually going through it and share your
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah.
That's
I think
really,
that really helped just because you saw how many people were going through it.
yes, yeah,
And people would tell their recovery stories. But also I think it's important to honor your own story because everyone's story is different. Everyone responds differently to different treatments. Um, Someone with perhaps diabetes needs to focus on that as an underlying metabolic issue, whereas someone else might not need to focus on that.
mm,
It's much more common in women with diabetes as well. It
very interesting.
increases the chance of having frozen shoulder. Um, and yeah, some people's recoveries are much quicker than others. So I think it's useful as a support, but not everything everyone else does is going to necessarily suit you. So it's finding like your own perfect storm, what was underlying your frozen shoulder, and then a
Mm,
plan specifically for you, which might be different from someone else's plan. But it really did help just to see you're not alone
yes,
and
exactly.
that there are recovery stories and people say, you know, yay, look, my arm, I can
Yeah,
do
yeah, it
this
gives you hope,
again.
doesn't it? It's
Yeah, I can
reassuring
do up
that,
my bra again,
yes,
so
well, that's a big one, isn't it? Even with the rotator cuff injury, that was suddenly the things you can't do that you took for
yeah,
granted, putting a coat on, like you
yeah,
said, doing up your bra, suddenly reaching for something. And it
yeah,
takes its toll on you as well. We'll talk about the emotional side in a moment, but I just wanted to finish up on the stage three. So that's the thawing
yeah,
phase. And I'm assuming that's the phase where you start to get more mobility, there's barely any
yes,
pain. Is that right?
yeah. And I think it's important to start doing things you were doing before,
Okay,
like
yeah.
getting, if you did yoga, getting back into yoga,
Yeah.
if you like swimming, doing swimming, if you like working in your garden, slowly trying to sort of build up things you were doing before that give you pleasure, that
Yes.
are, part of getting sort of your life back again. And so, yes, each stage has its kind of movement. And the last stage is really is sort of, getting back your movement, your strength, working on because you lose a lot of strength when your arm is
Yeah, of course.
immobilized.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of muscle, so it took a long time to sort of build that muscle back up again. So it is a process, but you do get there in the end.
You
Like,
get them. I love how you keep
yeah,
giving that reassuring
it
message. I think
doesn't
it's
feel
really
like that
important.
when you're in the middle of it. So it's really
I can
important to
imagine.
say,
Yeah. Well, because
yeah,
it's such a long time, it's not as though it's a couple of months. It's like you said, it can be over a year. It can be sometimes even a
yes,
couple of years. So I think make reassuring people, okay, it will get better. And
yeah,
that must take its toll emotionally. I mean, how you managed with two,
yeah.
I've never heard of it. Is that uncommon to have two frozen shoulders at the same time?
Yes, it can happen.
Yeah. But it's
It's
rare.
uncommon to have it twice in the same shoulder,
Right.
but it is not entirely uncommon to get it in the other shoulder. Not normally at the same
But
time,
that's what I
but
mean at the same time.
yes,
Gosh.
it can happen. I think perhaps too, like, um, was the underlying things are there, the inflammation, the drop in estrogen, the metabolic stress, that's might still be there.
Mm,
So I think in my case, I was trying to do too much with the one good shoulder and I put strain on it with the
yeah.
underlying, you know, foundational things were still unbalanced. And
Yeah.
so the body went, okay, we're doing this again. So it's very important to address those underlying things too. inflammation, stress, insulin resistance, all of those things it's important to address if that's the case for you personally.
Yeah, like you said, it's an opportunity, well, or at least you took
Yeah.
it as one to sort of look at all
An
of those things.
invitation to like
Yes, I
look
like that.
deep,
An
make some
invitation.
changes and
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not many people would come out of a two frozen shoulder, um, for what would you call it? A phase, I can't think of what even to call a two frozen shoulder cycle.
A challenge.
That is a challenge and a half, and to come out of it with that outlook of right, this was actually a good thing. I think
Yeah,
that's a real test of your character that you found the positive in that, and you
yeah,
know you thought right, okay, this actually happened for a reason, and I'm going to make the best of it. And it was actually you even said it was probably for the best, um, because it
yeah,
really help you look at things and turn things around and make changes that you obviously needed to.
yeah, yeah. Yes, now looking back at the
Yeah,
time, I
looking
wouldn't have
back.
said that.
No, of course.
I
Yeah,
remember telling a friend actually, I think when I was in the middle of it with one freezing and one frozen, I was like, I would go through unmedicated childbirth once a week not to have to deal with this
bless
because
you.
it's unrelenting. It's day and night, day and night, day and night. I think that's the thing that makes it much more difficult is because it doesn't let up.
Gosh, that must
And
be exhausting. That must be
it's exhausting, it's a mentally exhausting, it's difficult within your family environment. There's things you can't do. If you have a job where you have to use your shoulders, it's a long recovery time. It's can be extremely complicated.
yeah.
Um,
That must
but
take
yes,
its
I took it.
toll.
But
That
there
must,
was a big difference between my first one and my second one.
okay,
And
what
I
was the
think
difference?
that's because of doing things very differently the second time around. Because I knew not doing physio was one of the big things
Interesting. Okay.
in the beginning, in the freezing
Yeah.
stage, but also really paying attention to focusing on getting as much sleep as was humanly possible and attending to sort of an anti-inflammatory diet, doing lots of meditation, visualizations, doing a lot of contemplating emotional things in my life. I also, between the first one and the second one, went on HRT,
Okay.
which I think, we don't know because it's one case, me, but the before and after the was very different.
Okay.
The
That's
recovery
good
was
to
half the
know.
time for the second one.
Okay.
But I think again that was a combination of a whole lot
Yeah.
of things. I was, even though it was very distressing when I knew the second one was coming,
Mm.
once I decided, okay, this is what's happening, I put in a plan. I'm going to be very kind to it this time, and I'm going to do things in a different way this time. And it really recovered in half the time as the first one and never got nearly as bad as the first one in terms of loss of movement, loss of range of motion. So um, if I'd done that for the first one, I think I would have had a different journey for the first one.
Yeah. That's
But you
incredibly
only know what you
interesting.
know.
Of
You know,
course. Yeah, you learn from
looking back,
experience.
you know that at the time you don't know. That's why I think, I really feel excited about being able to help other people through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's really interesting actually that you said that the things that you implemented the second time round, excuse me, had such a difference. Um, and you were quite quick by the sounds of it to spot the second one coming. You said as soon as I knew that it was
yeah,
coming.
I knew pretty soon. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, this is happening again. One of the first signs is you lose external rotation
Okay.
and lose being able to do up your bra and things like that. And so once you've been through one, you're pretty quick to go, okay, this is happening again, and the other side. So
Yeah. You excuse me again. It must take a real emotional toll. I mean, I can imagine you got quite down at certain times. You mentioned that it becomes difficult with family and to just the fact that you can't do all of those things and being in constant pain can really affect your mental health. So I think I picked up on the fact that you mentioned meditation. and you were
Hmm.
obviously very very mindful of everything that you did and very gentle with yourself. And that's really useful for women to know, because I think a lot of the time people would just focus on, or rather try and treat the physical and the pain and and that those aspects, but forget about the emotional toll that that is actually taking,
Yeah,
being in pain for that amount of time.
yeah. And I think it's difficult too because the people around you, they lose empathy after a while. You know, when it goes on months and months and months, they're like, even your friends, even close friends will say, "Oh, you're still with the shoulder thing."
Oh, that's
You
a
know,
shame.
they
Yeah.
don't understand because they can't see your pain and the the effect it has on your everyday life. Like you're saying before, reaching up to get things, cooking,
Yeah.
getting the groceries, getting in and out of the car, putting on the seatbelt, all of these things that you just take for granted
Yeah. Just
suddenly become
washing.
difficult.
Yeah.
Getting in and out of your clothes
Yes,
becomes,
yes.
you know, a difficult
Gosh.
thing. I remember once actually, like one day I was so proud of myself. I managed to get on like this sports bra top and I got it on and then as soon as I got it on, I said to myself, oh no, I'm not going to be able to get this off because it was tight and it had a crossed
Yes, of
back.
course. That's
There
another
was like I
story
managed to
together.
shimmy into it somehow, but then I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to get this off. And my husband and my son were out of town for 4 days. So I was stuck there thinking, oh, I'm either going to have to wear this for four
Yeah,
days
yeah, or cut
or
it off.
I ended up going into a store with a bra and underwear store and asking the woman there to help me get my bra
Really?
off.
Oh, bless.
And she was so sweet because I was in
Oh,
tears even when she was trying to help me pull it off. Like it was very
oh,
painful. And she was so kind to me. I thought, oh, it really kind of made my day, even though it
yeah.
was kind of a stressing thing. And I bought two very soft kind of bras that you can like pull
Easy
up.
to put on. Yeah.
And she said, anytime you need help, come by the store. And like it really, I don't know, it just was the beauty of people. It was one of those moments I won't forget, you know, when you
Yes.
really need to, there are people there that will help. So
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was,
that's a really lovely story. I think as well, when you're going through something like that, and as you said, if people around you are occasionally getting frustrated, or they don't understand it, just to have that kindness, and from a stranger as well, I can see why that's really
yeah,
touched you, and on a day when you really needed it as well.
yeah, I
That's a
really needed someone sort of in my corner, and she was
yeah,
so
to help
sweet.
you. Oh,
Come
bless
back
you.
anytime if you need
Oh,
someone to help you take your bra off.
that's really
So,
sweet.
I just remember being so excited to be able to put it on too. I'm like, yes, I did it. And then straight away I went, oh no, because it was
You
quite
realize
tight. I'm like, I'm never getting this off. I was even thinking of cutting it off, you know.
that's what I thought you were going to say. I was waiting for I was going to say, oh no, I
And
hope
I
it wasn't a
thought,
really nice
no,
one.
I really like this bra. I'm not going to
Yeah.
destroy it. So then I took myself down to the local store and
That's
yeah.
really creative. I wouldn't have thought to have gone to the store to seek help. That's excuse me, that's really creative. That's been so interesting talking to you. I still can't believe that you went through that. I want to say you were incredibly brave, but I suppose you were thrown into it. You didn't have a lot of choice. But I think the way
Yeah.
you turned it round was admirable, and the fact now that you're helping others is a really lovely outcome, because it sounds like an incredibly difficult time. Like I said, I didn't have a frozen shoulder, but I had something. Now I'm not even going to say similar, because it wasn't as painful. It was similar, but it wasn't as painful. It certainly didn't last as long. But like I said, I'm seeing what my mum's going through, and I'm hearing more and more stories about it. I think a lot more people are opening up about it, and it's really really tough. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think people like yourselves that are sort of offering that advice and that support is incredibly helpful. And a Facebook group is a great idea. Just people
Yeah.
just sharing their
Yeah.
pain.
Just knowing that you're not the only one can be really helpful. But I
Yes.
think it's also helpful to have a space to really think about all the possible things that might have been under the surface.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this in the other group. Estrogen's like this amazing protective cloak that
Yeah.
sort of protects you from lots of things for a long time. And perhaps there's things going on under the surface that when that cloak kind of loses its strength, things
Yeah.
appear, insulin resistance, holding on to, the stress of life and for so long, like literally having a lot of things on your shoulders, like philosophically,
Yes.
holding everything together. It's like the body eventually says stop, gives you a sign that, and I think that's a chance to sort of really spend time thinking about what are the things that maybe are underlying this. What can I do differently next time? What
Yeah.
things can I joy and peace can I bring into my life? So that your body doesn't react in these very sort of overprotective ways. In a way, it's a sort of an overprotection. It detects something's wrong, there's some maybe tissue damage, and it goes in there, or like locking everything down. It's just trying to be protective of you, but it goes overboard because the signaling is wrong. The stress signals, the insulin resistance, the drop in female hormones, everything sort
Mm.
of happens at once. So I think it can be a real opportunity to really dig deep and make some long-term changes. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well,
I,
it's definitely a nudge, isn't it? To look at what's
yes,
going on underneath the surface. And I really love that you always give that reassuring message that it will get better. I think that's more
yeah,
than anything what people going through this need to hear.
need to
It,
hear.
it
Yeah,
will heal. Yeah, it
yeah.
needs a patience.
Patience, a lot of self-compassion,
Yeah,
um, yeah, and self-care and
yeah,
support, all of those things.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much.
Um,
I've learned a lot, and I'm sure that that this video is going to be really useful to people because there's just a few things that you said that I don't think anybody would have considered. So thank you for that.
oh, no,
And
it's my pleasure.
I'm assuming you're completely pain free now, and because you mentioned
Yeah,
that you got
yes,
back to lifting weights and everything.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Feeling strong, feeling
Yes,
strong
feeling
again.
strong.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your for
Okay, no, no
sharing.
problem. My pleasure.
Oh,
Right.
speak to you very soon. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.